Hello and welcome. I'm Annette Reeder from thebiblicalnutritionist.com, and today we're going to look at how can we stock up on protein. We've already talked about how to stock up at the different grocery stores, at Aldi and Sam's and all of those options, but yet today with the food shortage that's going on, I am always going to be a prepper. I have always been a prepper. I didn't realize it was so popular until prepping came in to being trendy, and so this is just what I do. So with the food shortage that's being pretty much scared into us, and there's a lot of validity to it, we need to know how to stock up. So today's video is how to stock up on proteins. Now, it's not about beans and legumes, it's about meat. So I'm going to share with you several grocery stores that I have been visiting, what are the good values and what are the not good values, how to store it for long term, not just in the refrigerator, but the freezer, the canning, and the dehydrating. That's what we need to do if you want to get ahead of this fear that's being fed to us. So I want you to feed your family well. I want you to be confident in the kitchen, confident with your health, but most importantly, confident in knowing and understanding how much God loves you. He has loved you from the moment of conception, and He has a purpose and a plan for you. Before we go inside, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the bell next to it. There's going to be a lot of succeeding videos about how to store our food, how to stock up on our food, and take advantage of what we have available to us today. So be sure you're subscribed, because every week I'm going to be sharing with you how to stock up and do it correctly. Sometimes we just need to have a few tips on how to do it well, and then we know, hey, confident, I've got this. I am ready for whatever happens in this world. Thanks for watching. Let's go inside. Okay, so when you visit a store that is a small family-owned store, you can actually talk to the butcher and ask them, okay, who's raising your meat? How is it being raised? And then you can look for the best deals. The idea of a butcher is that you actually have someone cutting up the meat for you right in front of you, so you can ask for specific cuts. This is an advantage when you're trying to store for long term. You want it stored properly, you want it in the right amounts for your family to enjoy. So I'm just kind of perusing their aisle here. You can kind of see their prices. When I talk to the owners, the Andy, who's the store manager, he tells me exactly how the meat is being raised. But that's the value of coming to a small store. I know you have small stores near you. Take advantage of them. Talk to the meat person or the store manager and ask, how is the meat being raised? You can even contact the farmers of how the meat is being raised. But like I said before, buying meat like this in the raw, you're still going to be better off than anything processed or restaurant food. Buying hamburger in bulk, you can then transfer it into smaller packages, or you can can it. So looking at the meat that we need to stock up on in Aldi, so the first is going to be your whole chicken. Now you can do so much with a whole chicken, and I'll share more about this in a little bit later at the next grocery store, but look at the price point that I found this at. Not only can we use this for our first meal, if we were to roast it in the oven, we can use it for a second meal if there's leftovers for a chicken salad, and then we can use the bones to make chicken broth. Out of one of these whole chickens, I will make at least 6 quarts of chicken broth. That is important to understand, because free chicken broth is the way I see it. So look at your price point. Even if you don't buy organic and you're still buying the chicken or the chicken pieces, I really prefer the whole chicken first versus the chicken pieces. You still are controlling the quality of your food more than if you're buying processed or restaurant food. So if this is all you can do, then buy it. Do I want you to buy organic? Yes, but if you can't make that price point, then just buy whole foods. And then we'll pray about the other part. But get what you can and stock up on it. The next item is the ground beef. You can look at the price point here at Aldi and compare it with your stores that you're going to. It has definitely gone up in price, and it is going up very quickly. But think about how you can stock up on this. So I can buy this, I can go ahead and dehydrate it. Yes, you can cook this completely, season it completely, and then dehydrate it. That way it will store for years. The other way is to can it. pack this raw into a canning jar. Check out my video on how to can meat and watch how simple this process is. You don't have to cook it, you just pack it into a jar, add some seasoning and some water, and process it, and you have canned meat. Again, it will last for years and does not require any heat to make a meal later in case the heat or the gas or your electric is in short supply. So stock up on this as much as possible, because this is definitely a food that we want to stock up now. When you see it, grab it. As you can see on the shelf, there was only a few packages, and when I left there weren't any. So you don't want to follow me after I've been to a grocery store. I am totally into stocking up. Now, another protein that I found here was cheese. Now, these are pre-packaged cheese, individual servings, so this is not a good price point, but it's just to show you a point that stocking up on cheese, it can be frozen. You can dehydrate it. It's just, I don't find it that good later to use, but you can freeze it. So if you just need some quick grab and goes for your kids, if you have an emergency situation, you need to throw this into your bug out bag, you could do this. Pull it straight out of the freezer, throw it in your bug out bag, and head out the door. But cheese is something that we can stock up on. It can store in your refrigerator or in your freezer until you need it for whatever reason. But definitely stock up on cheese. And not just these, but your other cheeses as well. Just do not stock up on the pre-shredded. It has too many chemicals on it, and that's not what we need. And the price point for pre-shredded is higher than for the block cheese. So stock up on the block cheese. I grabbed these because we have some grandchildren events coming up, but cheese is another high protein to stock up on. Fish is another food that we could stock up on. This is tilapia. It is farm raised though, so that's not my best preference, but even still, if it's all you can afford, it's going to be better than processed food. Now let's just do a review. So at Aldi, you saw that we have the hamburger, we are organic hamburger, which is still a really good price, the cheese sticks, and then also we have canned meat. So we have canned salmon, I'm upside down there, and canned tuna. Stocking up on this, you already know it's already canned. It can go in your prepper boxes. It can be stored for a long time. Now, if you remember on my previous video when I told you how to set up a prepper box and what to put in it, go back and watch that video because I had a lot of good insight. You don't just want to have a box of canned meat. You want a box that has everything in it you need for 1 week or 2 weeks or a month. That way you have everything in one place. I also showed you in that video to make a notebook. Now you can use the Proverbs 31 Prepper book as your notebook to keep track of what all you have stored. So I have my totes labeled A, B, C, and D, and then in my notes section I have in box A, in my tote A, I have these items, in tote B I have these items. So go back and watch that video so you can learn how to do that. So canned meat is always an opportunity to be well prepared. And remember in Proverbs 31, it says, you know, she looks for the wool and the flax. Well, this is our wool and our flax right now. We have clothing, we have plenty of clothing. We need meat, we need food that's going to get us through any food shortage. So make sure you study that book. Oh, and this is our new released edition with a lot more content in it and more updates than the last one. So canned meat is always going to be a good option. When you buy a whole chicken like this, yes, your family may enjoy all of it in one meal, or you could learn to divide it up into several different meals and several different options. So one is going to be you could cook this in your air fryer, your Instant Pot, or your crock pot, and then serve it for dinner. Put some sauce on it, or put it on some pasta or some quinoa, and put a little pesto on it, and boy, you're totally set to go. So that would be one thing. Then I always say, okay, no one's allowed to eat off the bones, because I'm going to take those bones and I'm going to cook them into my own homemade chicken broth. I could use this chicken broth to make the most delicious chicken soup or vegetable soup using my chicken stock. I usually make at least 6 quarts of chicken broth with one of these chickens. That's a huge savings when you add up the dollar value of what it costs for all of that organic chicken broth. So that is one thing. Now, another thing is you can can the meat. You can can the meat by following, I have a video on how to can deer meat. All meat is the same. What I really recommend is that you get one of the blue books, the Ball blue books, and this is going to give you all of the instructions for doing canned meat. The only instruction you really need is how long to pressure cook it. So once it is canned, it's good. as for this. And so it's good for many years to come. So learning to can your meat, you don't have to worry about a power outage. You don't have to worry about food being scarce, because if we stock up now and we can it, then it's good for many years to come. So making chicken broth, making canned, even if you just take the scraps left over, maybe save them in the freezer until you have enough to make a pint jar, that would be highly beneficial. So this is how we get our meals to go further and make more meals, and therefore we're saving money. Now, moving on, so that's kind of what Aldi had to offer. Moving on to Kroger. So Kroger had some ground turkey. It's not organic. Not always are you going to be able to find organic, but still buying this versus buying processed food or restaurant food, it's a better option. Again, same options. You can also dehydrate. So we've mentioned canning, we've mentioned freezing, we mentioned making the broth. Next is dehydrating. So you can kind of see I have my new dehydrator behind me, and it is kind of the bomb for dehydrators. Stainless steel, all of that. It is pretty cool. I'll talk more about that in another video on how to dehydrate everything. So make sure you're subscribed down below and hit the bell so you get notified when I post that video, and it's coming up pretty soon. So we have some ground turkey. If you found this at a really good price, then buy lots of it. Can it or dehydrate it. Now when to can it, we have to have raw, fresh meat. To dehydrate, we want fully cooked meat. So that's the only difference. Also at Kroger, they had the chicken thighs. Now, according to the price point compared to the whole chicken, this is going to cost more. This would probably serve a family of 4, maybe stretch it to a family of 5, and you have your meat for your meal. All right, so that was Kroger. So Kroger, pretty much, those were the two things I picked up there. Now, when I went to Tom Leonard's, which is always my favorite market, I picked up some London broil. I actually picked this up for 2 reasons. One, to show you that you can get personally cut meats. Now, sometimes personally cut meats can save you time and money. And so when you have a grocery store that is a family owned, you just have more options available to you. So I could have had this divided into thirds and packaged, and it would have been ready to go. I would just add it into a freezer bag and then put it in the freezer. What I'm going to use this for is to make beef jerky. This is the best cut of meat to make beef jerky. So with that new dehydrator back there, London broil is your best cut to make beef jerky. And so that's going to be a great video to show you. So the point is, if you have a farmer's market, which is actually an excellent option, or you have a grocery store that's family owned, that's how you can get to find out how the farmers are raising the meat. When you go to the big chain stores, it's a long series of phone calls. Believe me, I have done it to find out, okay, what farms are you getting it from, and then finding out how they're raising their cattle. Most, I'm not going to say all of the meat in the big chain stores, but most of it is fed the conventional way. And I talk about that in the Treasures of Healthy Living Bible study. So although I'm still going to tell you, when you buy the meat raw, you're still ahead of buying processed or buying prepackaged or buying restaurant food. So it's still a step ahead. So it's just steps. So take what step you can and stock up with your family. All right, moving on. So this is my canned meat and my broth. Then I was at Sam's. Now in Sam's, I totally stocked up on the canned tuna, and I prefer it in the water, and sometimes I mistakenly get it in the oil. It's not going to hurt you in the oil, it's just more calories, and it's not bad calories. It's actually, for prepper purposes, getting the tuna in the oil would be better because you're going to get more oil in your diet. Now the downside of this catching sales is sometimes you have to be in the stores more often than you want to spend the gas to go do. So, that's where we make everything a matter of prayer. Lord, you know my budget. You know I tithe, I give to you the first of everything. Now I'm trusting you to stretch my budget and to help me feed my family well. That is what Proverbs 31 is all about. It's about feeding your family well. It's about not being afraid when times get tough. It's about preparing your family for the snow, okay? Food shortage is snow. Let's just put it that way. And preparing your family and knowing that you have the confidence to feed your family. They also had at Sam's some double packages of just chicken thighs, boneless chicken thighs. So this, I cut them apart, put them in my freezer, and this allows me to just have a quick grab and go for a meal. And then you also can get the chicken that's already canned. So one of these cans, you could stretch it to feed 4. It's gonna be a little light on the servings, but if you're in a situation with a budget and everything, you can make that happen. To stretch a meal, if you're trying to feed 4 out of one of these cans, I would add like a can of black beans or some other beans that are your favorite to the dish. And you could put that over some pasta, over some rice, over some quinoa, whatever you have on hand. Maybe add a pesto sauce, maybe make your own white sauce or a pasta sauce, and you have a complete meal. So these are already going to be cooked, ready to go. So if there's a power shortage or a budget issue with electricity, it's already cooked. You could eat it right out of the can. You could throw these in your bug out bag and you could just eat out of the can. It's that good. So these are the finds from Sam's. So I'm sure in your store you'll find other specials. I also just put out here just to show you, I have a package of frozen deer meat. I have a friend who likes to hunt and he usually has more meat than he can handle, and he has a lot of big freezers and he still has extra, so he shares with me. And if you're not a hunter, I get that. I'm not either, not because I'm a Bambi lover, but just because I just don't want to do it. I don't think I can do it. But I have friends who do. I have family who do. So being able to stock up on venison definitely is something you need to consider, or talk to people who love to hunt and say, hey, if you have any leftover meat, this gentleman just gives me the back legs and he takes the rest. So that's good. It works for me. And I can can it, I can pressure cook it, I can dehydrate it, or I can just freeze it. So these are the tips that I wanted to share with you. When you find the food that matches what your family is going to enjoy or tolerate, we're going to move from thinking about, okay, what do they really, really like, to what can they eat and be sustained. Protein is the most important ingredient. Having protein in your diet is going to help balance blood sugar, it's going to reduce the need for insulin, and it's going to help with metabolism, and it's going to help with your hormones. So protein is very important. And so having protein at the beginning of each meal, I always teach the people in the inner circle and my coaching clients, start each meal with 2 bites of protein before you dip into anything else, and you're going to slow down the release of glucose and insulin. And so that's a huge tip. You'll also reach satiety sooner. And if we go into critical times, you want your family to feel satisfied. You want them to reach that level of satiety quickly and not feel like I'm still hungry and we don't have any more to eat. It's not going to be like that. So trust the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding, and in all your ways acknowledge Him, which means this is part of acknowledging Him, recognizing what He's putting before you. Like, I was not expecting chickens this cheap. And recognize what He's given you. He's given you a gift, and He's going to provide for you. So trust Him with everything, even your food. And with this being the protein, it's important. But yes, you could have meals with just beans and legumes, and that's fine. I just wanted to share with you how to stock up on meat. So thanks for letting me share with you this video on how to stock up on meat and protein, why it's so important, and just understand that God loves you. And when we are anxious or fearful, we're not trusting that He has us. We need to trust Him in every situation, no matter what we're being told, no matter what's coming on the media. Trust the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. We are not to figure out what's going on around us right now. We are only to lean on Him, not our understanding, because our understanding is being infiltrated by words from the media. That's not God's purpose for us. Stay focused, stay trusting, and don't let anxiety carry you away. So thanks for letting me share this with you. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel if you're watching it on YouTube. If you're watching on Facebook, be sure and hit like, and always hit the bell on YouTube so we can stay connected when I'm posting the next video. I'm going to be doing quite a series of videos on prepping and storage, and because it's where we are. I realized I was already doing it, adding a little bit more to my pantry, and I figured out you might want to know how I'm doing it. Thanks for letting me share with you God's recipe for excellent health.